So you want to start feeding birds, but every time you think about it, you just get overwhelmed trying to pick out a feeder. Well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to cut right through all that confusion so you can get started with total confidence. We'll focus on what actually works.
Oh, you know that feeling, right? You're just standing there in the store, staring at this giant wall of plastic and wood and metal, all these different contraptions, and your brain just kind of short circuits. This one looks too complex. That one seems like it'll fall apart in a week. Yeah, it's enough to make you give up and just walk away. But trust me, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
I learned this one the hard way. I once shelled out for this really expensive, super fancy looking feeder. It looked gorgeous. The box promised it would attract like every bird in a 5-mile radius. And you know what happened? Crickets. The birds wanted nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, this simple, cheap little tray feeder I had, it was like the busiest restaurant in town. And that's really the big secret we're going to start with. What works for the birds is always, always better than what just looks good to us. Okay, so instead of trying to cover every single type of feeder on the planet, we're going to narrow it way down. We're just focusing on the two absolute best choices for anyone who's just starting out. Let's keep it simple. I want you to think about your first choice like this. You can either go for the jack of all trades, a solid, reliable, all-around performer, or you can go for the crowd pleaser, the one that's basically designed to get the most action and the biggest variety of birds right from day one. So here are our two options. On the left, you've got the hopper feeder. That's our jack of all trades. It looks kind of like a little house, and it's great because it protects the seed from rain and holds a lot of it. Then on the right, you've got the platform feeder, our crowd pleaser. It's basically just an open tray, an open invitation to every bird in the neighborhood. The trade-off, it gets messier and you have to clean it more. So what's your style? Easy and reliable, or all-out bird-attracting action? And listen, don't even worry about all those other feeders you see out there. Things like tube feeders for little finches or suet cages for woodpeckers. They're awesome, but just think of them as level 2. You can always, always add those in later once you've got the hang of it. For now, just focus on that first, simple choice. Okay, so you've picked your feeder. Awesome. But getting birds to actually show up and stick around? Well, that depends on two other huge things: where you put the feeder and how clean you keep it. And these aren't just chores, they are the absolute secret ingredients to a successful, bustling bird cafe. Here is the golden rule for placement. This is the magic number: 10 to 15 feet. That's how far your feeder should be from any kind of cover, like a tree or a big shrub. See, that gives the birds the perfect balance. It's close enough that they can make a quick dash for safety if a hawk flies over, but it's far enough away that a cat can't just leap out and ambush them. Getting this distance right will make a huge difference in how many visitors you get. Now, for what is seriously the most important part of all: cleaning. A dirty, moldy feeder can spread disease, and that turns your helpful little cafe into a real hazard. It's super simple, but you have to do it every week. Dump out all the old nasty stuff. Give it a good scrub. A weak bleach solution, just a little bit, works wonders. Then rinse it like your life depends on it until you can't smell any bleach at all. And then, this is key, let it dry completely before you put new seed in. This is absolutely non-negotiable for keeping your birds happy and healthy. All right, every good story needs a villain, right? Well, the minute you put out a delicious buffet of birdseed, you are going to attract some very clever, very determined, and very hungry, unwanted guests. I'd like you to meet your new nemesis, the squirrel. These guys are the acrobatic, problem-solving geniuses of the backyard. They will jump, they will climb, they will literally chew through things to get into your feeder. Honestly, figuring out how to outsmart them is half the fun of this hobby. So how do you win this war? Well, first, get a baffle. It's that dome or cone-shaped thing that goes on the pole below your feeder, and it just stops them from climbing up. Simple but effective. Second, placement is crucial again. Make sure that feeder is nowhere near a launch point. No fences, no tree branches, no deck railings they can leap from. But just remember this: companies can slap squirrel proof on the label all they want, but a truly motivated squirrel, well, they take that as a personal challenge. Now, if the endless battle is just wearing you out, there is another option. You could call it a strategic surrender. You can actually set up a separate, cheap feeder just for them. Fill it with stuff they really love, like whole corn. A lot of the time, they'll just take the easy meal and leave your more expensive bird seed alone. It's a win-win.
Okay, let's bring this all home. We've covered the feeder, the location, the upkeep, and the villains. Now let's do a quick lightning round of the most common mistakes people make so you can just sidestep them completely and get your bird cafe off to a flying start. First up, buying that super cheap seed mix. Don't do it. Those bags are mostly filled with stuff like red Milo that most birds just kick onto the ground. It's a total waste of money and it just makes a huge mess. Next mistake, filling the feeder to the absolute brim. Seed that just sits there for weeks on end can get wet, it can get moldy, and that can really harm the birds. It's much better to put out less food more often.
And we're going to say this one again because it's so important. Ignoring placement. Putting a feeder right next to a big, dense bush is basically setting up a perfect hunting blind for neighborhood cats. Remember that 10 to 15-foot rule. And finally, the single biggest, most common, and most harmful mistake you can make, just forgetting to clean it. Seriously, if you take away nothing else from this, remember this one. A clean feeder is a safe feeder and a successful feeder. Period.
So see, it all just boils down to this really simple 3-step plan. Number 1, start simple. Just pick one good hopper or platform feeder. 2, place it smart, where the birds are going to feel safe coming and going. And 3, keep it clean. Get into that weekly habit. If you do those 3 things, I promise you're going to have a thriving backyard bird cafe.
It really is that straightforward. You don't need the fanciest, most expensive gear. You don't need to be a bird expert to get started. All you need is a little bit of know-how and a little consistency. So, what do you say? Are you ready to open for business?